Hey everyone, long time no see. So, it's been a minute. It's been, maybe, how long has it been? It's been like a year and a half since my last post. And a lot's happened. Um, and I have one really good reason for why I haven't uploaded a video in a while. And it's a bunch of really bad reasons. So, let's get into it. All right. What happened? Why have I not uploaded in a while? Well, the truth of the matter is we had a flood. So this down here, this is in my basement. Basement of the house, pretty much the entire basement, with the exception of the utility room and a craft room that's off to the side. Pretty much the rest of the basement is dedicated to my games. This half, like I said, is where all the games are stored. The other half is where I have the television, and I've got all the game consoles hooked up, and we've got couches, and we've got all the controllers in there. But this is in my basement, and we are underground. Here's what the deal is. We live in a neighborhood that's in the middle of a state park. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. I really love where we live. And our neighborhood, it existed before the area was turned into a state park. So basically, the surrounding woods became a state park after the houses that were in my neighborhood were built. And what this ultimately means is it's really cool to live here because you feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere. It feels like you're out in the woods, even though technically speaking, we're in a major metropolitan area. And it's also cool because it's like we don't have a whole lot of neighbors. There's maybe a dozen houses out here, and there's not going to be any more added unless, they redistrict the state park to be, available for construction. But as it stands right now, it's not. So it feels cool because we're out here. We feel like we're in the middle of nowhere, feel like we're out in the woods, but we're really in the city limits. But there is a problem. And the problem is there's a single road coming into our neighborhood that kind of just goes off into the woods, off of a main road. So this single road comes down here, and the road is maintained not by the city, but by the State Forestry Service. What does that mean? It means that they don't do as good of a job of maintaining the trees as the city might. The city, when there's trees along the side of the road and you've got telephone poles going down the road, the city is going to come in and maintain and keep those branches trimmed. The State Forest Service isn't quite equipped to do that in the same capacity, so our road does get neglected. And what this means is that when we get storms, it's real frequent for branches to be broken off and take out a power line. And the other problem is, of course, because we are out here in a state park, getting the power company to come out here and fix our power, restore our power, is a little bit of a pain because, when there's a power outage here, chances are there's power outages elsewhere in the city. And chances are the other power outages are affecting way more customers than are down here. So we're kind of usually the last one. And the end result is that, we have power outages frequently, and they can last longer than most places. And as a result, most of my neighbors, they have like whole house generators for when the power goes out. And we knew we were going to have to get a whole house generator because both my wife and I work from home, out of home offices. And having power go out for 8 hours during a workday is kind of problematic. So we wanted to get a whole house generator. The problem was we purchased one, but it was, during the height of the pandemic, and there were supply chain problems with all sorts of different things. Getting these shelves from IKEA was a pain because of the supply chain problems. And Our generator was on a 9-month back order when we purchased it. So we just kind of had our fingers crossed that nothing really bad would happen until the generator came in, which was apparently the wrong call. So unfortunately, the flood happened. It was about 4 months before our generator was scheduled to get here. We had this big storm that rolled in, and it took out the power. And it took it out at night. It was like about midnight when it took out the power. And everybody was in bed, so we didn't know the power was out. We basically woke up without power. And when we got up and realized we had no power, I didn't come down here immediately. Because, we're here, the basement is underground, there's no windows facing outside, so the basement is extremely dark when there's no power. So I didn't come down. Nobody came down. I do remember as we were, doing things, I kept noticing that the cats were at the top of the stairs, like staring down into the darkness in the basement. And I didn't really think anything of it, but they were probably telling me, hey, Dad, there's water down there. But I didn't know. I had no clue. And so, this is in the basement. We have a sump pump to try to pump to keep the water from flooding. But of course, the power went out at midnight and it kept raining. And so the sump pump hadn't been working for a while and it flooded. So around noon, all of our devices that we had, cell phones, switches, everything, the batteries started dying because we'd been, browsing our phone and stuff like that while we were waiting for the power to come back on. And so I came downstairs to I have this, we've got a whole lot of, these little battery backup things that you can take and plug in your devices. But I had a really big one down here that we take camping. And I came down to get it because it was charging with my shelving that has all my controllers. There's a lot of USB things to charge controllers and game consoles and stuff. And so I had it plugged in there. So I came down around noon to get the battery pack. And that's when I discovered that it had flooded down here. I'll probably put footage over me speaking of the flood. So if you're seeing that right now, know that the footage is going to be a little bit rough. It's going to be a weird camera angle because I wasn't recording it thinking I'd ever upload it to YouTube. I was literally just recording it so that I could assess the damages and, turn the information over to the insurance company. But we had about 4 to 6 inches of water, which really sucked. If you'll notice, if you go back to my original video that I uploaded, you will notice that on the bottom shelves, and all the shelves that are behind me, I didn't have anything on the bottom shelves, or I tried not to have things on the bottom shelves. That's because in my head, I was always a little bit concerned that we might have a flood, which was apparently the right call. So fortunately, because I didn't have anything in the lower shelves, the vast majority of my collection was fine, which is super awesome. Now, I have my collection insured. I had my collection insured then, and I have it insured now. So technically speaking, it's insured, but it's like a lot of this stuff is really hard, would be really hard to replace. Because, I've been collecting since the 70s. I've got this big Sega Genesis, Sega Master System, 3DO. I've got all these old classic consoles, Magnavox Odyssey. Like, replacing all that stuff would be really difficult. So I'm really glad that the vast majority of it was fine. There were really only 3 things there were 4 things that got damaged. My gaming PC, it was on the floor. I know, don't do that, but it was. It's linoleum. I felt it'd probably be fine, but that was the wrong call. So my gaming PC was sitting in water, so that was dead. I had a modded Game Boy Advance. Hold on. This guy. This is the modded Game Boy Advance that I had. That, and you can even see, like, the damage it did. I don't know if you can see. But this thing was sitting in a, like a foam case that, you know, if the idea is you drop it, the foam will protect it. And what happened was I had it sitting in the foam case, like up on a shelf like this. And then when I went to record the video, the video that, you know, the first video that I uploaded, the one that gave the big tour of my game room, I was like, oh, that looks terrible. So I took it off the shelf and I put it on the bottom shelf, which was the dumb thing to do because then I forgot about it. And as I was recording, I noticed this thing was in its little foam case floating in the water. And I mean, it was floating, which was nice, but it was foam, so the water just seeped in and destroyed it. And it was modded. It was like, you know, had this fancier display. The other thing that got ruined, I had a modded Sega Dreamcast that I had modded myself. I had put in the thing that allowed you to use the SD cards. And unfortunately, the Sega Dreamcast, along with the C-Man, the little microphone thing that you plug into the top of your controller for the Sega Dreamcast to talk to C-Man. If you don't know what it is, Google it. You can figure it out. Those things were in the case together. They were not in a case. They were in a bin. It was like this plastic bin that kind of fits inside shelving that we got at Target. And we got rid of the shelving, but we kept the plastic bins. And it was on the floor, shoved in the little closet in here. And it wasn't watertight, so the water got in. The last thing that did take a little bit of damage, I had... here it is. Samurai Jack for the PlayStation 4. This is a limited run games release, number 356. It fell off of the shelf and was lying in the water. I didn't have to replace it though. I took it out. The game was fine. The paper, the insert, I took it out and air dried it, and it honestly, it looks fine. It works. It looks fine. So I was really fortunate. So the vast majority of my game collection was fine. The problem was the furniture wasn't. All of this stuff is IKEA furniture. It's all particle board. And particle board, you know, it's like a sponge. You get it in 4 to 6 inches of water, and it's just going to soak up that water and just warp. In addition to that, we had a Lovesac sectional couch, one of these sectional couches that you can kind of rearrange like a bunch of Tetris blocks. We had that because I wanted something in the other area for being able to move the couch quickly out of the way and potentially rearrange it if we wanted to play VR, so we'd have a big space. That Lovesac, the sectional couch, like we had just barely set it up. Like we maybe got 2 months worth of use out of it before the basement flooded, which that really sucked. And then, yeah, all of these shelves, I have something on the order of like 32 Billy shelves. These are IKEA shelves. And I don't know, maybe 6 of these Kallax shelves. All of them got ruined. And then, of course, the walls, you know, the drywall all had to be fixed. And then the other side, there's tiling on the floor, but the tiling in here was more durable than the tiling on that side, which warped up and we had to take the tiling out. It was really cheap on the other side. So I was really fortunate because the vast majority of my collection was fine. It was really just furniture that was largely damaged, and my gaming PC and a couple other things that were really easy to obtain replacements for. And it was all insured, so insurance paid for it. It really wasn't too much of an ordeal. Like the insurer, our adjuster or whatever the guy's called, he came out. And it was really, so the funny thing is, the video that I uploaded, the first one that gave the tour, I actually used that in the insurance claim to show him everything I had, because I hadn't ever sent him an inventory of all my games. Because, yeah, trying to gather up an inventory is kind of hard. I now have it all digitally on an app on my phone, but at the time, I didn't have a complete list, so I sent him the video that I uploaded as, Exhibit A of all of the stuff that I had. And the flood literally happened within like 3 weeks after that video. It was maybe 2 weeks. It was really very quickly after that video was uploaded. So the flood happened. We had to emergency bring all of the games upstairs, which was an ordeal. Insurance, covered the boxes, so they brought a whole bunch of boxes. They covered the emergency people to come in and drain the water. So we had, a truck in our front yard, sucking the water out. And then, my wife and I and my daughter, we were taking all the video games and putting them in boxes and lugging all of these. I mean, this is a lot of games. Lugging all the games, all the consoles upstairs. Our house is a good size house, but like moving all this stuff out of the basement up to the upstairs, it really took up a lot of room. And, for about 6 months or so before we could start moving stuff back down, we were just living with boxes stacked to the ceiling. And we've got skylights upstairs. We had a bunch of boxes up in the loft area, but like the skylights have this swath of sunlight that passes over the loft. And it's like a lot of this stuff, you don't want to have it in direct sunlight. It's going to, drain the colors out of the materials. So like I had to go up and like creatively stack and move things so that the swath of sunlight wouldn't hit all my stuff. It was a lot of work. And then once we got everything out, then they had to repair. It took about 4 to 5 months to get everything, just to get it so that the walls were repaired and repainted and the flooring was put in. And then, so I've got these lights, and they've got they're fluorescent lights, and they've got these plastic covers. Things, I don't know what I don't know the terms, but because they had like the heaters down here to dry everything out, it like warped and cracked them. So there's like all this stuff. Point is it took about 5 months before I could start rebuilding stuff down here. And then, because we were still in the middle of the pandemic, the pandemic is still technically going on. Maybe not officially, but people are still getting sick with COVID, so it's definitely not over. But the thing is because we were still having the effects on the supply chain from the pandemic, like all of these shelves were on back order at IKEA. And I was really pleased with them, so I wanted to replace them with the same things. But it took like another 3 or 4 months before I finally got, and again, remember, I've got like maybe 40 shelves between the Billies and the Calyxes and all the other stuff that I've got down here. It took a minute before all of the shelves got down here. And then my wife and I had to put the shelves together. I don't know if you've ever put together 40 bits of shelving from IKEA. It's not fun. It is not a pleasant experience. And the thing is, it's crazy. We had just done this. Before the last video, we had just finished putting up the last shelf. Like literally 2 weeks before the last video, we put up the last shelf and put the last bit of the games in. So it really sucked that over the course of a year, we had to assemble like 80 total of these stupid IKEA shelves. I never want to build another IKEA shelf again. Nothing against IKEA, but that's too many shelves to build. Anyway, yeah, so it basically took about, I don't know, 8 months or so after that last video before I could start moving my games down in bulk. And then I kind of hit a wall. So that's the good excuse for why I haven't uploaded a video. The good excuse is that I had a flood and I couldn't record anything down here. Nothing was presentable. The bad excuse is that after everything was back and restored, I will admit I hit a wall, and I did not want to put away any more computer games or video games or anything. And so there was a while. By this point, we had our generator, so there was no risk of flooding. Plus, we had battery backup on the sump pump. So there literally was no risk for flooding. So I had the boxes down here. I still have some boxes that you cannot see because I will not pan the camera down. But I had all the boxes down here, and I just, for months, didn't put them away because that was a lot of work, and I was really, really, really fucking tired. So, I'm now set up to a point where I can record again, and I feel comfortable showing. There's still work to be done. Obviously, I've got some new games that I haven't put away yet. Stuff that has arrived. In fact, this just came today, Gata Protectors from Limited Run Games. And I haven't organized them, put them away yet. If there's any silver lining to this, if there's any upside to what happened, it's that it allowed me to kind of rearrange how everything was laid out. If you go back and you look at the video, there were problems with the way that I had it arranged. I had, consoles were split. I had Nintendo stuff over here, and then I had to put more Nintendo stuff over here, and there was Sega stuff in the middle, but then the Sega stuff was bifurcated, and I had like Sega CD stuff off in a corner, and I didn't give myself enough room to grow. The space that I had set up for PlayStation 5 games was overflowing at that point. The space that I had set up for Evercade games was overflowing, and it wasn't organized well. I mean, a lot of it is, it's hard to anticipate with a collection this size. It's hard to anticipate where you want to put everything. So I'm not really blaming myself, but it was kind of good that I was forced to reevaluate where everything should go, because I kind of learned from my mistakes and organized things better. So like I moved all the Nintendo stuff here. I now have it so that all of the Sony stuff is literally together. It's all right here. All of the Xbox stuff is together. All of the Sega stuff, like literally Sega Master System, Dreamcast, Saturn, Genesis, 32X, Sega CD, Game Gear, even the Japanese, SG 1000, SC 3000 games, it's all in a big Sega wall. So the upside is that I managed to arrange things better, in a much better way. All right, so this video has gone on for a little bit. It's a little long. I am going to cut it here. I'm going to make another video where I answer some questions. After I uploaded the first video, I got a lot of questions, both in comments on the video and then via Slack messages and Discord messages and stuff. So I'm going to upload another video which will go over me answering those questions. And hopefully, knock on wood, no tragedy will befall. And I can maybe upload more videos in the future. Who knows? We'll see. Anyway, thanks, and stay tuned.